So thank you, Shaila. I think we have had a lot of glargine overload already. And we are going to have a lot of insulinization and insulin evidence base being presented. What I am going to put out some pieces is to reaffirm how glargine is a standard of care and the evidence base it has generated. And I'm going to have some direct slides picked up from the US FDA submission of degludec and degludec with aspart, head on with glargine. So I'm going to run you through those slides in the next maybe 18 or 19 minutes. So somebody just asked a question, what is more important? Is it fasting? Is it prandial? In Indians, we eat more carbs. We finished our STAR study and we tend to have a higher prandial value. And we all know that the Monnier concept has been challenged. We all know that on baseline oral agents, fasting hyperglycemia dominates across A1C ranges. In the good old days, the Monnier concept of physiology from France was that if your A1C is less than 8.5%, it is the postprandial glucose which matters. And if your A1C is more than 8.5%, it is fasting which what matters. And this is an elegant piece of information published by Matt Riddle, which clearly shows that on baseline oral agents, fasting hyperglycemia dominates across board on wide range of A1C. And when we intensify treatment, 40% contribution comes from fasting. So obviously we need to know the relative contributions of. And that really led to a very unique concept that when we treat diabetics, we want to really fix the fasting first. So even if you have large prandial spurges of 350 and 400, we know that there is a lot of hepatic glucose output at night which contributes the fasting next day morning. And if we are able to fix that fasting with a basal insulin, we can actually lower the excursion of prandial glucose curve. And this is the most fundamental concept based on which optimal insulinization has been documented and based. And therefore, if you look at addition of glargine to most patients with type 2 diabetes, you can see here elegantly a myriad of trials, whether it's Initiate, whether it's a laptop, whether it's Apollo, whether it's a Landmark, whether it's a treat to target trials. You can see very elegantly that the A1C was reaching the glycemic target of 7 by sheer addition of glargine on top of an oral agent. So obviously it is the most well-studied basal insulin which has generated maximum evidence in the world. It is the only insulin with documented CV outcome safety, and I'm sure you have heard about the Origin trial. I will just give you a glimpse of that. On clinical trial programs of glargine, we have 10 million patients. It is the largest studied insulin from the evidence-based standpoint. It has more than 60 million patient years. It has more than 59,000 participants in clinical trials. And therefore, if you look at the 2015 guideline of the joint recommendations of ADA and ESD, they still put basal insulin right at the top. They put basal plus. They do add premix there, but they put clearly in the fine print of the document that premix is less flexible. It is a fixed arbitrary ratio, not necessarily based on any physiological parameters. It is quasi-physiological. It is a less studied alternative. It is less adaptable for flexibility because if you are using a premix, you need to eat at the same time and you need to eat the same carb and have the right amount of food footprint of carb to fat to protein. It cannot be intensified very easily, and if you intensify premix, you will get a lot of peak and valley phenomenon of hypoglycemia and hyperglycemic peaks, and obviously more hypos lead to more weight gain, and therefore the titration challenges with premix still remain. Though in China and Asia, primary care, general practitioners use a lot of premix. Okay, you are going to see more and more insulinization with basal and basal plus, because it's more physiological. So remember that a fixed ratio inherently of premixed formulations make them less flexible and adaptable to an individual's profile and his specific needs, and therefore the basal plus strategy is a more physiological strategy, and that's what has been shown and recommended as a standard of care from the ADA and the ESD. Do we have data head to head? Looking at glargine glulycine as a basal plus strategy versus a premix strategy. And let us look at a 24 open label multi-center trial called Galapagos, in which they clearly took a simple strategy of OD glargine, metformin OADs and OD or BID premix with metformin OADs, and they then randomized to an OD glargine met with a glulycine, which is a basal plus, and followed them up over a period of time. And if you look at on glargine, majority of the patients received once a day injection over 24 weeks, and on premixed, majority of the patients received twice a day insulin at the study end. So obviously 63.4% in a head-to-head trial had 2 injections of premix at the end of the study. What were the primary efficacy endpoints at end of treatment by number of injections? And you can clearly see here that OD injection of glargine contributed to much more primary endpoints of an A1C less than 7% without symptomatic hypoglycemia than twice a day injection. And overall the premix group OD and BID had an equal primary endpoint. So this is how the primary endpoint looked like. If you look at the change of A1C over a period of time, and you can see here premix versus glargine, a lower A1C was achieved in the premix insulin group, but you can see it was not statistically significant. And if you look at the insulin doses over time, the premixed insulin received considerably higher mean insulin doses throughout the study than the glargine dose. So in premix you need a larger dose, you need a highest mean insulin dose given, and more often than not you need it twice a day. Look at the hypoglycemic results and look at the glucoses below 70 and 56 and look at the rate of hypoglycemia premix versus glargine overall, nocturnal and daytime, and clearly you can see a differential coming out, very documented. So the overall conclusion of this head-to-head trial was that a similar glycemic control was achieved with glargine therapy, had a lower incidence of overall and nocturnal hypoglycemic events compared to premix therapy. Majority of the patients with glargine arm had an OD dosing over 24 weeks, whereas 2/3 of patients with premix arm ended with 2 daily injections, indicating that they needed to have a stronger intensification. And the insulin, glargine and glulycine arm was not statistically superior on the composite outcome compared to premix. So obviously, from the physiological standpoint and from the evidence-based perspective, a glargine glulycine step probably achieves a more favorable benefit to risk profile to type 2 diabetic patients compared to premixed to achieve glycemic control. And it also allows you to pick up the largest meal of the day. The advantage of really a basal plus strategy is basal controls your fasting, and the prandial peak based on the largest meal of the day, you can use it and titrate it appropriately. So that's a big plus of basal plus. Do we have data now of comparing glargine with degludec-aspart, because we have that available? And you can see here IDEC-ASP demonstrate non-inferiority on A1C control compared to OD glargine and other insulins. And these are the list of trials done by Novo Nordisk, and you can see here whether it is the basal plus in Japanese population, basal plus in type 2 diabetes population, the NN 359093, NN 1791, and then of course in the type 1 population, and a comparison of NN 1792 in premix population. And clearly when you see these changes of IDEC plus glargine, there is no difference, and you can see here very nicely, there is absolutely no difference between the two in percentage of patients achieving A1C, as well as in all the 3 trials, whether it is a Japanese trial, whether it is the 3590 trial or whether it is a 3593 trial. So clearly no major difference. However, in 3590, OD glargine demonstrated a significantly better fasting reduction compared to the IDEC ASP. And both in 3896 and 3593, OD glargine had a numerical greater fasting reduction. So when it comes to fixing fasting first, clearly glargine scores over the degludec plus arm. When it comes to really glycemic control, the glycemic control is similar, and there is no non-significant higher rate of overall hypoglycemia in non-Asian populations. So when you look at glycemic control, insulin doses, body weight, overall hypoglycemic rates and withdrawal rates, virtually there is no difference of using a premix of degludec aspart versus plain glargine on a head-to-head study. Patients with A1C in control without hypoglycemia, when treated with OD glargine or IDEC ASP, is there a difference? In non-Japanese type 2 diabetic patients, there was a numerically higher percentage which achieved an A1C without confirmed hypoglycemia with OD glargine. And in 3590, the difference actually favored glargine with the statistical significance. And obviously, more patients may have achieved an A1C target in 3896, but there was a lot of confirmed hypoglycemia. So obviously you can see the hypoglycemia is another differentiator, whether it's nocturnal or otherwise. And you can see here very clearly this difference is spelled out on head-to-head trials of glargine versus IDEC plus. So what was the conclusion? That the rate of confirmed nocturnal hypoglycemia was lower with IDEC ASP than with the comparators in type 1 subjects and in 2 type 1 diabetic trials. But in rest of the type 2 diabetic trials, there was no significant difference between IDEC ASP and comparators. And this data set was used by the US FDA when degludec failed their submission to the US FDA. Now look at the nocturnal hypoglycemic episodes. They were all documented between 12 at night and 6 in the morning. So it is 1201 to 5059. And the time window of definition of nocturnal hypoglycemia was arbitrary. And when the changes of results on nocturnal hypoglycemia were looked at by the US FDA to make it more meaningful, they were able to look at the differences coming out more stark. And here you can see that there was no really strong signal on confirmed nocturnal hypoglycemia. And US FDA did not find any merit in that substantiation. However, looking at that whole nocturnal hypoglycemia and daytime hypoglycemia picture, it was not a consistent pattern which was detected on total hypoglycemia across all trials. And therefore, US FDA concluded that probably the longer duration of action of the degludec was being missed, because probably that was occurring at 8 o'clock in the morning and that was not picked up. And therefore, they felt that it was not having any statistical significance to allow that insulin to be launched in the United States. Obviously, when you look at insulin doses, there were higher doses just like the previous premix study with the premix insulin, and obviously the weight gain was there, and you can see there was a statistical significance seen in one of the trials. How does plain glargine compared with degludec head to head? Here you can see type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, basal bolus in type 1 and type 2 both, and type 2 with basal. And overall you can see head-to-head studies of non-inferiority of A1C reduction between type 1, type 2 over a period of 6 to 12 months, whether it is glargine, whether it is degludec. So efficacy results, A1C reductions are less than or similar to glargine in all trials. The A1C mean reductions are numerically less in the degludec group than the glargine group, and the proportion of subjects achieving A1C below 7% are numerically smaller. And the fasting reductions of IDEC are similar to glargine in most of the trials. So this is the proportion of people achieving an A1C below 7% across board, head to head, and you can see clearly there is no difference. The p-value is non-significant across board right up to 2 years. Type 1, type 2, glargine versus degludec head to head. But you can see here that the proportion of subjects achieving an A1C below 7% was not statistically significant. Was there a difference in proportion of subjects achieving an A1C below 7%? You can see virtually no difference. And non-inferiority, let us look at non-inferiority and whether it is favoring the competitor. In most of the trials, the comparator was glargine. And remember, non-inferiority is not non-equivalence. What about mean reductions of A1C non-inferiority trials? And you can see here very clearly, head to head, that the treatment difference above 0 favored actually glargine in trials across board. What about the critical issue of hypoglycemia? Does degludec cause less hypoglycemia than glargine? And look at all the trials again. They had similar hypoglycemia of glargine versus degludec, head to head. And you can see here that evidence base is pretty clear. Look at the BEGIN studies and look at the rate of severe nocturnal hypoglycemia was too low to allow useful comparison. And there was no accepted definition of hypoglycemia and timing of injections, and that may have influenced the results of that trial. And that is why probably the US FDA failed to get this insulin on board. And you can see here rates of confirmed, rates of severe hypoglycemias did not meet any statistical endpoint which was of meaningful significance. So that so-called advantage of no updated analysis of confirmed nocturnal hypoglycemia really disappears when you add that time from actually 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, to 12 o'clock to 8 o'clock. That's the only difference. Minute you add those 2 extra hours in picking up the hypoglycemia, that whole advantage goes away. And they were forced to do this analysis very clearly by the US FDA. So US FDA then made a comment, which is on their website, which is where I picked up these slides, that occurrence of nocturnal hypoglycemia was influenced by timing of the injections. More hypoglycemic episodes occurred early morning, which was the actual peak time of degludec. And therefore, if both degludec and glargine were injected in the morning, the conclusions regarding risk of hypoglycemia at night could have been different. And that is why they have told them to do more analysis, and they are likely to resubmit their data for approval in the near couple of weeks which are coming up. So if you look at insulin pharmacodynamics and nocturnal hypoglycemia, you can see here the time to reach maximum effect of degludec steady state is 12 hours for degludec and 4 hours for glargine. So if degludec was consistently administered at dinner time and glargine was administered once daily usually at bedtime, the timing of injection of glargine was not recorded in any trials done by Novo Nordisk, which was an objection which the US FDA took very, very seriously because they felt it was not a fair comparison. A degludec with the evening meal while glargine at any time of the day, you could not compare the two because of the different peaks they alluded to, and that is why the hypoglycemia difference was there. And therefore, they clearly concluded, and this is a US FDA slide, that the descriptive data shows lack of consistency across trials, hypoglycemia definitions, across time period, and does not suggest any advantage of degludec over the comparator, which is glargine. What was the real reason why they did not allow the molecule to go up? Was because of the hazard ratio for CV safety. When they did the MACE analysis, including unstable angina, on the original data set, you can see that the hazard ratio for CV risk went significantly high. And you can see the updated data set, it is going up to 1.3, which is on the fence, but the other part was going to 1.93, and subsequently from the original data set, this concerned them 2.57, which is clearly off any molecule to be marketed if you're looking at CV outcomes. And when they updated the analysis, this whole hazard ratio went right up to 1.67 with 1 to 2.75, and that really worried the FDA that they wanted a CV outcome trial with degludec before they approve it. So clearly the MACE and updated MACE suggested that there was a CV risk for IDEC and IDEC aspar over the comparator. And therefore they concluded, the US FDA concluded, that their CV safety signal of increased risk has been seen in the degludec development program, and both the original and updated CV risk of degludec and degludec plus have raised concerns because the consistent data was towards harm, with the hazard ratio going around 1.6, 1.8, right up to 2.5, 2.6. and therefore this signal appears to be credible and consistently points out to a potential of harm with degludec over glargine. But the plausible mechanism and the risk factor could not be identified, and therefore they wanted to investigate the CV safety signal, and therefore they wanted more data to be made by the competitors. How does it compare with the Origin trial? Because Origin was the first CV outcome trial on insulin, and glargine is the only basal insulin with established long-term CV profile, and you can clearly see the neutrality. Origin not only bailed out glargine from the cancer concern, but also bailed them out from the CV's concern, and you can see here consistently the sub-studies of glargine on from the Origin subset, whether it was the GRACE, which is atherosclerosis continuing evaluation, whether it was the ECO, whether it was cognition, whether it's erectile function, health economics or cancer. Clearly there were beneficial ratios which were seen from the various trials, and because of brevity of time, I'm quickly skipping some of these Origin data which clearly have showed that glargine clearly has documented CV outcome. So what is glargine really? Glargine is fundamentally a evidence-based insulin with outcome data which is consistent, and all other insulins have to be compared with the same. And obviously you can see that the robustness of glargine was most well studied in the Origin trial. India was a large part of it. In fact, Dr. Kale also has been an investigator in the Origin trial. And what I have tried to do is give you a reassuring piece, both from the safety and efficacy piece of glargine. Not only is it one of the gold standards for basal insulin or basal plus, but will continue to remain for a very, very long period of time. And every regulator now uses glargine as a gold standard when it is comparing with any new molecule. And unfortunately, at least for United States, degludec or degludec plus could not make the cut because of a CV concern and some inconsistencies related to the peak time not being picked up between probably 6 and 8, and the timing of administration of glargine being not recorded in all the trials. And that is why probably glargine will stay as the gold standard of probably basal insulin for times to come. Thank you for a patient hearing.